right? Like I said, I've been homeless before. I've gone days and days without food before. So for me, food security, that's primal, right? Like it
Sure.
concerns me a lot. But I'll bleed and I'll sweat and I won't even complain. But if I have to worry about where I'm going to get my next meal, it stresses me out quite a bit. So having food security is really important. So having a property where like we planned it out so much, it's like if things got really, really, really bad, and they could, we're really actually worried about that a lot,
Sure.
like food chain disruptions and other problems. And we decided if we had to just hunker down on this property and survive on only what we can only do here, what could we live with?
This is the Farm Hop Life Podcast, a traveling homestead family. I'm Matt DeRosier. On the Farm Hop Life Podcast, we learn what it takes to grow your own food from everyday people. Could be a college student, grows tomatoes and salad greens on their apartment patio, a former VP of marketing for Del Taco now raising cattle in Montana, or someone who hasn't had a homestead in over 10 years. This show is aimed at teaching you what it takes to make homesteading work for you, that we all make mistakes, we all have bad days, but we can reach out and help one another thrive, and giving you the confidence needed to go feed yourself.
Is that? Oh, for some reason I thought it was like a parakeet, but that's a chicken.
Yeah, it's a chicken.
I was like, well, you are in Costa Rica, so I'm like, well, it wouldn't be that weird to
Well,
have
I guess that's true. No, it's a rooster. He's a little rooster.
That's funny.
Here they have these. I mean, he's almost full size now. They call them jardineros, so they're garden chickens. They're mostly for bug control.
Oh, nice.
So you wouldn't really eat them. Their eggs are super small, like a little bit bigger than a quail egg.
I was gonna say, like, they're like quail sized. Looks like. So like,
Yeah. So he's just kind of a pet.
They're for bug control. Like, what kind of bugs would you need to keep under control there?
Well, like they're yard chickens, right? So
yeah,
like mostly they'll take. I mean, he'll eat anything. A couple of weeks ago, I had a Brazilian wandering spider actually almost landed on me. They're deadly, so that was
that
scary.
sounds bad.
But as soon as he saw it, he left right on that and ate that sucker up in 3 bites. So it's crazy.
Wow.
So on scorpions, they eat scorpions too.
Really?
So I'm just gonna adjust the screen so I'm not looking up all as I'm in my studio, so our setup's a little bit not really meant for this, but let's see. Okay. There, I think I might be able to almost make eye contact with the camera now. So nice to meet you.
Yeah, it's good to meet you too. I've been following you for a while. We've been like, yes, well, I wouldn't say been trying to make this happen for a while, but been wanting to make this happen. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it absolutely
Yeah, it happens here too. Actually, it's way past my bedtime, so I'm getting my bags, and who knows what I might say. I can't make any promises. I'm usually in bed by like 7:30.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this, and then also pushing it back an hour on top of when we were like already supposed to do this. So much appreciated. So thank you.
No problem. My husband was saying to me just this morning that I should start trying to stay up later so that I can get back on a better sleeping schedule, because I wake up at like 3 now. I'll spend like 2 hours just sitting in the dark having coffee. So it would be better if I could stay up later.
It's a good time to read a book, right? Just wait for the sun to come up.
Well, no.
So where in Canada did you guys start?
We were in Southern Ontario, so about 1 hour northwest of Toronto.
Okay.
Where are you at?
I live in Western Montana.
Okay. Have you ever been to Canada?
A couple times, just not over that way. Been to Banff and Vancouver.
Okay, it's like another planet.
So Ontario is?
Yeah, well, I mean, the west of Canada is quite a bit different from the rest of Canada. I've never been there, but I've been told my husband's been there before. So, and I have friends from there. It really is like another planet compared to the eastern part of Canada. It's so big.
It
Yeah,
is
it's
huge.
kind of
Yeah,
like, if I could compare it, it would be like comparing people from, say, New York with people from Texas. You
sure.
understand, right? Like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, we lived a little bit. We were in the country there. That country there is a little bit different than country here, so it wasn't a big stretch for us. But I mean, we never farmed till we moved here, so that's been a learning experience.
I was gonna say, so you kind of just did everything all at once. I mean, so
Yes.
when you were in Canada,
Mhm.
so your screen name, right? Your handle, a handy ginger gal. You
Mhm.
did like home repair stuff in Canada. I'm assuming that's where that part started, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. I love done a ton of construction work. Actually, we had in 2016 we had a house fire. Like I was doing stuff before that. I really like building things, like a lot. I've always been really handy. I've always worked on my own cars, right? Like doing my own car repair. But anything that needs doing, I'm kind of like, well, I'd rather do it myself than pay somebody else
Yeah,
most of the time.
most of the time.
But in 2016, we had a big house fire. And for the rebuild of that, we hired a contractor, but he ended up being a complete crook. So partway through the rebuild, we fired him, and we couldn't afford to hire a new contractor. So I had to take over and finish the job by myself. So that was at the framing stage. So
Oh
I
my
hired
gosh,
contractors for the drywall because I could do
that's
drywall, but I
smart.
don't know that I could do a whole house. And I really hate drywall,
Same.
like really hate it. So we hired drywallers, but after that, it was all me. The whole thing, like
Holy
installing the
smokes.
kitchen, all the tile, right? All the trim work. Like you really, I don't know what kind of house you live in, right? Ours is a 140-year-old Victorian house.
Wow.
So you get a real idea of exactly how much trim work there is until you have to do it. And you realize, like, it took 2 years probably to get it all done,
Yeah, I believe that.
like fully.
So like in those kind of homes, like there's trim like up on the ceiling, like
It's everywhere.
every like walk through doorways, it's just everywhere.
Yeah.
Whereas like
And I mean, I got lucky because our fire didn't destroy everything. It was mostly smoke damage for a lot of stuff. So when they were doing the tear out, I told the contractor, because like the house still had all the original solid wood trim, right? 140-year-old solid wood trim. So it had baseboards that were like, they were 18 inches high,
holy smokes,
right? Like you can't even buy those anymore. So I said to him, well, don't throw that away. Throw it all in the basement. And I was pulling up like smoke damage, like soot covered trim, and I was scraping off like 140 years worth of old paint and totally just refurbishing these baseboards and all the window trim to put it back up.
wow.
So I mean, there's a hell of a job.
So is that wasn't the start though of your
No,
handiwork? You were in it
no,
before that even.
yeah, no, I've always been like that. My grandfather's a lot like that, right? Like he always made all his own things. He built his own house way back in like the 50s.
When you could order from
Man's old
Sears or
break
something.
even. What's that?
When you could order it from Sears or something.
My grandfather never ordered a damn thing from Sears that was a kit.
That's funny.
He doesn't do kits. I remember actually when I was a kid, my grandparents used to go to Florida every year, and they'd take a trailer down for the winter. And in the spring, they'd come back up, and my grandfather built the trailer, like built it from scratch. And every spring when they'd come up, he'd tear it apart and build a new one for the next winter.
What?
Yeah.
What a madman.
And I mean, you a bit, right? Oh yeah, it's crazy. It's amazing. He's a freaking hero. But so I come by it honestly, generally. So my aunt's a lot like that too. She builds everything. So
it's in your blood.
yeah, yeah. It's only been recently that I've actually had the ability and the time to do it as much as I like. Like now that we live here and I'm technically retired, then I have the theoretically have the time to do as much as I want. I mean, setting up a farm is taking a lot more time than I thought it was gonna, but
So let's get into that a little bit. So like you guys left Canada for
Mhm.
what seems like obvious reasons.
Mhm.
I'm assuming it was obvious reasons why you left Canada in the middle of COVID.
We left, so the Canadian government was going to close all public transportation and border crossings for unvaccinated Canadians as of like November, I think it was November 24th or 25th of 2021. And we left 4 days before that happened.
Wow.
So
To get to
because I didn't
Costa
want to get
Rica.
trapped. Mhm. Yeah, well, we knew we wanted to move. We knew we wanted to leave. We were planning to do it for, say, February the next year. Um, and when they announced that they were going to be closing the borders, we said, well, I guess we left before our house was even sold. Like,
Wow.
we had to leave or we wouldn't be able to get on an airplane. So, yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So
So that's when we left.
how did you pick Costa Rica though?
So we'd been planning retiring away, like out of country for a couple of years, but our first choice was actually Italy. We spent probably a year researching Italy and starting to make plans, and that was like the 5-year plan, like a proper legitimate retirement. And as we were doing research, we started realizing it was a lot more complicated than we wanted it to be. Their immigration rules were pretty restrictive. Some of the other rules too, like their rules for driver's licenses. I love to drive. And they had some really harsh restrictions for foreign drivers and for getting an Italian driver's license. Stuff like that started adding up over time, and it was like, well, there's also, they're having a lot of problems with immigrants there now. I don't mean
Right.
like we have a problem with immigrants, but the kinds of immigrants that they have kind of just showing up
Yeah.
there are starting to cause a lot of problems. And we had problems like that in Canada already. And I didn't want to haul everything up and move over somewhere where I was going to start running into the same kinds of problems, right?
Right.
So some of that started making us think, well, maybe we should look and see if there's somewhere else, right, that might be more suitable. We wanted somewhere where land was pretty cheap, where we could grow food relatively year-round. But like the northern part of Italy where we were looking gets snow in the winter, but it's still pretty temperate. My husband insists that it can't be really hot, right? Like a tropical place is never on the list because he's gigantic and his body creates heat like a furnace, just breathing. So for him, he needs somewhere where it's reasonably temperate. So mountains are important. But I think we just randomly came across one day an article online about Costa Rica having mountains and like that there was some cooler parts of that country. And I was like, really? We were a little surprised. And he started doing more research. He's like, oh my God, this one actually worked for us. I was like, are you kidding? You want to go to Central America? We're like, I didn't have a problem. That for me, that's fine. I love the heat. But I couldn't believe he was suggesting it. But yeah, the more and more research we did, the more and more it felt like it was legitimately our place,
Nice.
right? Like it was kind of custom made for us. And if there's people that say, oh, why don't you go to Ecuador or Panama? Panama's cheaper, right?
Sure.
That has a lot of problems that we didn't want to deal with
Sure.
as well, right? Like the locals there are a little more hostile to expats. For a lot of good reasons, right? Like they have a really tumultuous relationship with Americans, right? So gringos, they're not always really appreciated there the same. But also, we really, really wanted the mountains, and Panama's mostly flat and mostly hot,
sense.
right? So we really, really love to hike. And I love waterfalls. We come from an area in Canada that has like hundreds of waterfalls. They're
Really?
everywhere. Yeah, surprisingly. We were close to where the Niagara Escarpment is,
Okay, that makes sense.
and
Yep.
we lived in the watershed. So there were little waterfalls and a couple of really large ones heading down towards Niagara Falls. So a place where we could still do that a lot was had a lot of appeal. So that the adventure part of Costa Rica was also a big draw in addition to the being able to farm year round. So
So just to give people like some context, so
Mhm.
how big is the property that you bought, and like how much was it for, if you could share?
Yeah, it's 2.85 acres, which is roughly 1 hectare. We paid $80,000 US for it. It's got a 2-bedroom cabin, excuse me, a really large rancho, and there was another section of old house that I've since torn down and built a bedroom above. But so, and it had a large chicken coop, so it was already well towards our goal of what we wanted,
Okay, so it
and
actually
that I
had
can't beat that price.
structure on it already.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I'm sitting in the house, right? Like it's a 2-story cabin. My daughter lives. So our studio and our laundry room is in the bottom part because it's small here. And the upstairs is like a self-contained apartment. My daughter, she's 22. She lives up there. She has her own bedroom and bathroom and kitchen up there. So we mostly live outside. The rancho has our kitchen, living room, dining room. So it's all open to the outside, which is what we wanted. And then I built a bedroom attached to that. Well, I'm still building it. I've been delayed in my building project with other things.
Sure.
But I mean, we sleep in it right now because the curtains are on to keep the bugs out. It's a real jungle experience, kind of.
Yeah, because so like
So,
you're welding like some framing, right? So and then you were
yeah.
welding stairs or something also,
Yeah, that's for our bedroom.
and that's so like
Because there
when you
was
got like a
the old
rooftop
house,
view.
yeah. It's a fabulous view up there, actually. I'm really excited to get the bedroom finished.
Nice.
Oh, one day.
Did somebody get hurt recently, like within like the last month or so?
No. Yeah, my husband.
Oh no, what
Okay.
happened there?
So everybody gives me crap for my stairs. So I have a video on my channel where I show welding the stairs together. I built them. But because of the design that we had for the room and the footprint that had to fit on, the stairs are actually quite steep. They're like
Okay.
ship stairs, right?
Okay.
So the goal is when they're done to have a railing on both sides and literally like, you know what I mean when I say ship stairs?
Yeah.
Like that, right? It was
More like
really
a
the
ladder
only
than
way
stairs,
of getting it
but
done.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little bit less than a ladder, but they're treacherous, right? Like you gotta be careful when you're using them. So everybody keeps saying, well, I told you you couldn't build your stairs like that. That's not why you fell. So I'll save myself the humiliation. What I was doing was I had a big, like 3/4 inch piece of concrete board, like a big slab of it that was the hole where the stairs is. You know, like you're on the second story and there's a hole where the
Yeah.
stairs are. I had a piece of concrete board kind of sitting on top of that hole at the back of it to put the welder on and my tools on while I'm working, right? Just like a shelf. And I had the tools off of it because the cat likes to sleep on there and I've been busy doing other things. And I was up on the roof working on a water heater and I asked my husband to hand me a tool and he stepped on that board.
Oh no.
I know I told him never step on that. It's not thick enough for your weight, right? There's no support under it, right?
Yeah.
It's not meant to hold a person. And so I was sitting on the roof and I could see him from like the waist up. He had to be the tool and then all of a sudden I saw him just go straight down, like he just vanished. I was like, oh, sorry.
That's fine.
That's weird. Now he's like, oh my God, because it's high. It's got to be 12 or 13 feet for sure.
Sure.
And he landed on the metal stair, right? Like, so he fell straight down and he bounced off these metal stairs and down, and then fell onto the ground.
Oh my gosh.
So he cracked his head open at the back really bad. His whole face was covered in blood. He's laying on the ground. I swear to God, I thought he was going to be dead. Like, it was a bad fall, really bad. And I'm sitting there going, I don't even know how I'd get an ambulance up here, right? Like,
Yeah.
it would be hard. It would be hard to get an ambulance, and he's too big for me to carry. So I couldn't get him in the car, right? Like, luckily, I mean, all his arms and legs moved. He was
That's a good
very
start.
sore. Yeah. He refused to go to the hospital. So he didn't go to the hospital.
Really?
Yeah. He's really stubborn that way.
Yeah.
And I mean, to be fair, in the same way, I probably wouldn't have gone to the hospital either. I would have just said, just glue my head back up, give me some scotch, and I'll be fine tomorrow, right? Like, that's the way I would deal with it. So,
given the state of hospitals lately, I guess I can't blame you. It seems like my wife's had like a respiratory infection or something like that for like the last month or so. Just like she had it checked out. They ran a couple scans. They're like, I don't know, take some steroids or something, and like send her home. And like, it's been like this for years now. We're like, I always thought doctors always liked the like challenging cases or whatever, right? Like they wanted to like figure it out. Like, hey, I've got the patient. I don't know what's wrong. It's not this, not this, not this, not this. Let's try. Like, let's just find out. But yeah, they just write you off and just like next. They do not care. Do not care anymore. I don't know what happened.
It's never like Dr. House. Never.
Nope.
It's never lupus.
That's right.
No, but I mean, in fairness, he's not the type that even the best of hospital he would be inclined to go, unless he really, really needed it. We need to suck it up type. So he was bedridden almost exclusively, other than bathroom trips, for about 3 weeks, just because his back hurt so bad.
Wow.
He couldn't walk very well. Yeah.
What did he like hit his back on the way down then?
Yeah, on the stairs, his back and his head, right? Like, you gotta understand, these stairs, they're sharp edge metal, right? Like, they're L bracket. That's the edge of the stairs, so it's not even rounded.
Sure.
Yeah. So
you're gonna put carpet on
now,
him,
though, actually.
Right? You're gonna cover it in carpet.
Carpet. I don't even know if they sell carpet in this country. That would be weird. I get mold on my Tupperware containers just from the air.
Oh God!
I couldn't even imagine trying to use carpet here.
No, I'm super glad that I live in a dry climate. It sounds terrible.
No, it's good. I actually really enjoy the humidity. I never get chapped lips anymore.
I don't know. I'm in a humid climate now.
If it was hot, it would be bad.
I'm in a humid climate now, and my lips are chapped. So.
Oh man! So yeah, he's doing a lot better though.
Good.
He's maybe 70% now. He can go do some more of the farm work again. For a month I was doing all of it by myself, which it's hard because cutting the grass here is not, just use a lawnmower. Like, I have an 8-foot long arm double handlebar trimmer.
I saw
that weighs like 30 pounds. Yeah. That thing is a monster, and it's dangerous. So I had to learn how to use that. That was new. But I got it. It's hard though. You can only do 2 or 3 tanks of gas on that, and then that's it for the day. Because most of our property, not most of it, but like 2/3 of it is like a 30-degree slope.
It's pretty steep,
right? So you're trying to keep footing on that kind of slope while you're also trying to manage this long arm trimmer and cutting weeds that are like 3 feet high, right? Or grass. Yeah, the jungle, it takes over really fast.
I bet it does, yeah.
Especially in it's rainy season now, so it takes over really fast.
So you get down to Costa Rica, you find the place, you got this property, you buy it, and you didn't. That's when you started your homesteading stuff. You got your choice and stuff. So what was the first homesteading thing you guys did there?
I got chickens.
Got chickens?
I mean, we had the chicken. Excuse me. Had the chicken coop already,
Okay, that's
and I
good.
wanted chickens. So, so I got chickens. Actually, we had friends that we made here, relatively new friends, and they gave me 5 chickens to start. And that's where I started with my chickens. I knew I wanted ducks and turkeys, so I started scouting around for where I could get those. They're harder to come by here. Turkeys are really delicate, and they're not well suited to this country. So not everybody has them because they're a lot of work.
What, they
And they
get too
take a long
hot,
time.
or what's the hang up
No, everybody here has chickens. Like everybody, every property here has had chickens on it. And I discovered this with my last Tom, my poor dearly departed Tom, who died from a parasite. And that's when I learned why you don't keep turkeys on the same land that you had chickens on, because they get this terrible blackhead parasite that's like 90% mortality rate.
Wow.
So, I mean, that's one of the things, right? Like everybody's had chickens for so long, it's just, they're going to die. Like your turkeys are probably going to die. So they're fine in the climate. They don't seem to have any trouble with that. And predators, right? Like turkeys are really dumb and they don't see well in
I've
the
heard.
dark. So they've already had one of those eaten by a predator. So yeah, it's a challenge.
But you still
Chickens
like keeping them. You still like your turkeys.
I love my turkeys, and I can't wait till I have one mature enough I can actually eat them. That's what I'm looking forward to. I love the turkeys, right? Like they're a lot of fun. I love watching them, and I hang out with them all the time. So they're fun to have as well. But yeah, I love turkey. So I'm looking forward to when we're ready to start harvesting one.
What do you think got your one turkey? What do you think it was?
Oh, it's probably some kind of jungle cat. We did some research. We never saw it, but I heard it, right? I had a very kind of distinct, like a puma or cougar sound, right? Like, that they do when they're attacking.
Okay, yep.
I heard it, and we'd already lost 3 chickens before, but like these kinds of chickens, so they roost up in the tree high, and they were in a really small tree. But I heard like Sheldon's mom and dad both succumbed to this animal, like one day and one the next day. And I heard the attacks. It was fast, right? Like one squawk and the bird was gone, right? But it was nighttime, so you couldn't see anything.
Sure.
So I did some research, and there's only like one jungle cat that's small enough to made it up into that tree. That is arboreal and nocturnal. So, and it was that, I can't remember what it was, a margay. It looks a little like a Bengal cat actually, but a little larger.
Huh.
So smaller than a jaguar.
Okay.
Because we're too close to town for, I'd be surprised to see jaguar here. Like there's a big park nearby, but not near enough to find a jaguar where we live. But like bigger than a bobcat, but smaller than a jaguar.
Okay.
Something like that. Yeah. I mean, the turkey it took was pretty mature. It was pretty large, and it took everything but his wings. So it tore the whole body right off the wings. So it was big enough to do that.
Jeez.
It's not a house cat.
No.
Yeah.
No.
So
what are there protections down there for predators? So like there's no way you could like shoot it with like a 22 or anything?
We're not legally allowed to own guns here because we're not citizens. If we had citizenship, we could get a gun. That would be fine. But because we're still on tourist visas, we can't own a gun.
Is it like the world's
they have
longest
really good-
tourist visa? Like how does that work?
No, we have to leave the country we used to have to leave every 3 months to renew our visa.
Oh.
Now they've just changed it. So every 6 months we have to leave the country. So we live 1 hour from the Panama border. So we'll drive into Panama for 2 days and then come back. and renew our visa. For now, that works for us because the residency program is complicated. And once excuse me, I'm losing my voice. Once you're approved for it, you have to start paying into the health system and the pension system.
Oh.
Which is costly. That's expensive for expats. And right now we're still so healthy that I'd rather just pay for my private for healthcare when we need it.
Sure.
Because it's rare and it's not very expensive here. Like to go to the doctor is not expensive here. So for us, it's not really worth it to start paying into the system. We'll never get the pension, right?
Right.
But we'd have to start paying into it right away. So I'd rather take my once every 6 months, 2 or 3 day vacation to Panama, then renew my visa, and have the freedom, right? So far we haven't had any problems doing that. So lots of people here do that. It's really common.
Interesting.
But as far as predator control, I mean, they have really good air rifles here. I could get one of those. But, I mean, there's not a lot. There's the jungle cat, but we have a big dog now. Like when that cat took my birds, it was right after our last dog died, and we hadn't got a new dog yet. So now we have, I think she's a Ridgeback, and she's a very good guard dog. So we haven't had a problem since we got her. The only other predator I'd have to worry about for the birds is like boa constrictors.
Sure.
And they're common, but I haven't seen one yet. We had friends that boa constrictor got in their turkey shed and ate one of their birds, but like a year or two ago, it's 12 footer too. It was a big one.
I was just going to ask how big do you think it was? Yeah.
There should be video because you have to, when they get that big, you got to call the fire department to come and get it because they're really dangerous, right? Like when they get that big.
Heavy? Bet they're heavy.
I would guess so. I mean, it was big. And so the fire department will come and they'll take it and they'll bring it into the national park and let it out. So,
interesting. Okay.
I mean, I would just throw that on the barbecue, but
I was going to say like Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom.
Really? Why you don't do it like that? He's pooped on me.
Got pooped on. I was wondering if that was going to happen.
That happens all the time. The good thing is his poops are like little rabbit turds, so they're like solid little. They're like solid little balls rolled off me.
Here, I expected like a nice, like just like
a wet one.
Yeah, a real wet
ducks
one.
Are terrible. I would never want the ducks to poop on me because they make a damn mess. But no, he's an elegant little fella.
That's really interesting. So what are some of the what are some of the things that have worked well? So you have chickens. They're doing good. They're eating bugs and dangerous spiders. You got ducks. They're hard to get, but they seem to be doing well. You got turkeys.
Oh, yeah. We get tons of baby ducks.
Awesome, but we're going to keep at it.
Yeah, my turkey population, I have 8 right now. I would like to get at least a dozen. Maybe a couple more after that would be good, just so I can have it. Because they don't lay very well, right? Like a turkey, I think that's like 60% laying time, whereas the ducks are like 90%. It's ridiculous, right? Like the ducks, almost every day, all year, they'll lay an egg.
That's nuts.
So I get a lot of duck eggs, but the turkeys, not so much. And they're not very good mothers, right? Like they really are very dumb. So it was a miracle one day.
They're not very prevalent down there.
No, it was funny because we started out with 3, so 2 females and a tom. And almost like within 2 weeks, we lost 1 female. She just vanished, probably flew away or didn't stop. She just wandered away maybe. But then we had Tom and Gladys. And Gladys would hang her out for a while, and then one day she just vanished too. I was like, oh, I guess now we only have a boy. So I'm going to have to find somewhere to get another female turkey. But, well, I was busy doing other things, so I didn't get around to it. And then, like, maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks after that, I go out in the yard, and she showed up with 4 babies. I had no idea where she'd been nesting, and not in the yard, right? Like she just wandered in there from somewhere else. I had no idea where she'd been. She showed up with 4 babies. I was so excited because I had no idea she was even nesting.
Right. You
So,
thought
but
she was dead.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, dead or gone,
Yeah.
right? Like just they wander away. We lost a couple ducks already. And sometimes we have a river down the hill from the house, and sometimes I see a couple of my ducks just kind of swimming around in the river. I'll never get back because you can't catch them. But
Sure.
yeah, so, before I started clipping their wings, I lost a couple ducks that way.
That seems kind of fun though. Just seeing your ducks just playing in the river. I don't know. That sounds nice.
Yeah, it would be nicer if I could take their eggs. Like
That's
they're
true.
my food.
That is true.
Yeah, I hate losing food. I really hate losing food. So
So you had mentioned that like the jungle, like especially like during the wet season, like things grow really well. So are you taking advantage of that? So like what kind of things are you growing?
So I started out with just a regular garden bed and a couple of hugelkultur beds. But I didn't shelter them, so I learned very quickly that there's too much rain here for that. Like tomato plants and cucumber plants, they just shriveled up because they just got too wet
Sure.
all the time. So I built a shelter over the hugelkultur beds, and then I had a lot of success with the radishes and tomatoes and lettuce. I dug up like a couple of outside garden beds just in the ground, and I'm starting to build shelters over them too. So it's clear to me that any like vegetables that I want, like regular peppers, onions, tomatoes, potatoes, and I got peanuts too. I have to put under shelter and just water them so I can control it because it just gets too wet. The native stuff here though, my God, it just randomly grows by itself. We have pineapple, coffee, bananas, plantains. I have a papaya tree. I have a mango tree, but I haven't seen any mangoes on it. We're a little bit, our elevation's a little high, so it probably won't, but I'm still hopeful. I have avocados and some other fruits that I can't remember the names of that are
It's a lot,
not
actually.
common. Yeah. Oh, it's amazing. All the time I'm finding new plants on this property that I can eat. And we're really lucky because we have a whole bunch of native friends that when they come over, I'll ask them to come around with me. Show me which ones can I eat, right? Like, how do you cook it? So like yucca root, this cassava, I think people call it, is one of those things that I was totally unfamiliar with. I see this tree, and my friend just grabs it and he pulls it up. I said, see these roots? You can eat those. I was like, oh.
Nice.
Okay, I'll plant some of that. My husband loves those. So, yeah, it's fabulous. And we're adding more to, like, so much citrus. I must have 20 citrus trees for sure. Grapefruit and orange and lime and lemon. And they have the most common citrus here in this country. They call it limones. It's the size of like a little bit larger than a clementine. The outside skin is green. The inside is orange, but it tastes kind of like a bitter orange, like a cross between orange and lemon. It's really strange, but they're everywhere. Are you still there?
Yep, I'm here. I don't know what happened. That was super weird.
That's okay. I have sometimes really crappy internet. My daughter's upstairs gaming, so she might be stealing most of my pipe. I don't know.
I'm on crappy hotel Wi-Fi, so.
Oh, you're in a hotel.
Also, like my yeah, I'm in Texas for work right now. Like,
okay.
My whole browser just like shut down. It was I never experienced that before. Super weird. Anyways, yeah, you're telling me about your citrus.
Yes, I don't know how much of it you heard.
That what was the last thing I heard? It was you have
So
40 different
they have
kinds
this
of
really
citrus
weird
plants,
native one.
and then yes, that one, the native one.
Yeah, they call it limones. That's what they call it. It's slightly larger than a clementine. The outside skin is green. The inside flesh is orange, like a mandarin. But the flavor of it is kind of like a cross between lemon, bitter orange, grapefruit. It's a strange flavor. It's just a bitter citrus
It's
flavor.
strange good or just strange?
Depends what you want, right? Like I juice them all the time. And I'll put like some of it in with some club soda and then put it in a glass with a salt rim, and it's kind of like a virgin margarita. That's pretty good. I like that. It's refreshing.
Pretty good.
I make homemade lemonade with it too, so I'll make like a simple syrup mix. I'm about to this week actually use some of our sugar cane to make the simple syrup, so I don't even have to use white sugar. And then I'll add that to it, and it makes actually a really amazing lemonade. So
nice. Did you?
Yeah,
did you also say coffee? You said coffee.
Yeah, we have coffee plants too.
So
most of they're old, so they don't have a lot of beans on them. We need to replant new ones because the ones we have are really old. But I am learning how to take care of the coffee plants, and we have a neighbor up the road that she's been showing me what to do for when we actually have fruiting coffee plants. That's just not right now. I got like 5 beans before.
So would you just plant new ones, or are you planning on like you're gonna try to graft some on the existing plant?
I know exactly nothing about grafting.
Oh,
you could. You probably could, but I don't know enough about grafting to do that effectively. And like for a whole field, like what we have is
like how many do you have?
Oh, the whole hill is covered in those. It's got to be a couple hundred for sure.
Holy smokes.
It was a coffee farm on one side.
It was?
Yeah.
Okay.
So when we bought it, they were all stumps. Somebody just cut them all off, but the stumps were growing back, right? So it had new shoots.
Yeah.
But they're old, so this is good that the ground and the plants are kind of spent. Last year I went around and I trimmed them. Like a friend of ours said, well, cut off everything but like 1 or 2 of the best shoots, right? That way the plant can throw more energy into rebuilding instead of all these tiny little suckers everywhere. So I did that, and we ended up actually getting beans this year, but like 5. We got like a handful of coffee beans.
5 magic beans.
And the plants are starting to come back, but the truth is, I'd prefer just to, buy a couple hundred new ones, like little ones, and then just in between the old ones, just plant them. They'll be fine.
Sure.
Because it's less work.
Have you gotten something like picked out, like a variety of coffee that you think you'd like?
I don't know enough about that. We got really lucky because a friend of ours that lives in the area, she works at the Conservation Authority here, and they have a program. We just actually finished taking advantage of it. They have a program. It's funny. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a little story about the history of the area where we are.
Yeah.
So in Costa Rica, the area where we are is called Cotobruz. That's the canton that we're in. It's in Punta Arenas province, but it's the very far south of the country, right up against the Panamanian border. And 80 years ago, no, 60 years ago, this was all jungle. Nobody lived here, right? Like, there's nothing here. It was just jungle. And the Costa Rican government decided they wanted to start building up this area. They wanted to settle people here. So they announced an initiative where they were going to give free land to anybody who wanted to come and settle here, right? Like carve a space out of the jungle and start a farm or whatever. And a whole pile of Italians from Italy decided to move over and do that. So the biggest town close to us is called San Vito. And it's actually a lot of original Italians still there. So there's 1 or 2 people we've met. They still only speak Italian. They don't even speak Spanish yet. They've been here from the beginning. Wow. It's so strange. Where we are is a very large outlier from the rest of the country. It's not like the rest of Costa Rica at all. It's very pioneerish and really rural. So where is it going with that? Oh, yeah. Are you still there?
Yeah. Yep, I'm still here.
There you are. You kind of froze up. So anyway, where I was going with that was, the funny thing is, the Conservation Authority started noticing that the national park, it's called the Homestead Park, they share it. It bridges with Panama. So there's a big, gigantic national park that's half in Costa Rica, half in Panama. And that's where a whole bunch of the native wildlife is. But it no longer has a connection to the Osa Peninsula that has the Corcovado National Park that's on the coast, right?
Right.
So the problem is now you don't really have a wildlife corridor anymore for the native wildlife, because they settled all in between. So they wanted to settle the area and then they overdid it, because everybody's just started clearing it for pasture for cows and stuff, right? So now the Conservation Authority has a program where they're doing reforestation to build a green corridor from the Amistad Park to Corcovado for the wildlife. So anybody who has a farm that's in the catchment for the area that they want to reforest, they will come and plant trees, native trees on your farm for you for free. They'll just bring all the trees and plant them for you and then maintain them till they take for a couple of years. So we just did that because we have a bunch of pasture that's just scrub, right? Like all we have to do is cut it, but it's too slow to plant anything useful. So they just came and planted a whole bunch of trees for us. So anyway, where I was going with that was, the good thing is when you do something like that, you make friends with people who know things you want to know. So the conservation jet was very, very pleased. I gave him a whole bunch of seeds from some of the rare trees we have on our property that they want to use for reforestation. And in exchange, he's going to hook me up with the really good coffee plants when I'm ready.
Nice.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah. It is good. They're good to know. People like that is first like the stuff we want to do, where you want to know, how to take care of the food trees on your property and what can you eat and where can you plant stuff that's going to thrive. And that's what you want, is you want to know people that are native to here and understand how to do it right. So
right.
I worked very hard to make friends like that.
So what's something that hasn't worked well for you? You got a couple of livestock, sounds like things going with like your trees are going pretty well, but what's something that hasn't worked?
Well, okay. Language.
Okay.
Learning Spanish has been very hard for me because I have a terrible memory. So I've been very, very slow. And it's important to us. I really, really, really want to learn Spanish. Like we definitely planned to learn the language when we moved here. I don't like the kind of people that move to a foreign country and refuse to integrate. So we were never going to be those people, but it is really hard. But as far as the farm goes, the biggest challenge really has been learning what the new challenges are. Because I was actually just talking to a friend today about it. In Canada, our struggle always, not just outside for the house in general, but any property, your challenge is almost always managing cold, right? You want to make sure your pipes don't freeze. If you have any animals, you got to make sure, like chickens, if we wanted chickens there, you have to make sure they stay warm in the winter, right? Yeah. Have a place to get food and stuff. So managing cold was always the really big challenge there. Here, managing water is the challenge. It's a challenge I'm not familiar with because it's never been a problem for me. So making sure that the turkey house isn't in a spot where it can flood, because turkeys will drown. Like, they'll sit on their babies in a puddle of water and they'll drown, right? Because they're not very smart.
Sure.
Stuff like that.
Right.
Making sure you get... we have really excellent drainage here, but sometimes the drainage thing, like the water carries things away with it. And like I said, with my garden beds, right? The planting stuff and then having it all die because it just gets too wet. So challenges like that, like learning that on the fly, it's been a challenge. But
yeah, the massive amounts of rain, I'm assuming, is trying to figure that out, because
Yeah.
like you get so much all the time that you wouldn't have to store it. You wouldn't have to try to bury it in the ground, or like, try to get, the ground saturated with water,
Well, we
because it
have
already
water
is all the
storage.
time.
We have a water catchment bin as backup, and I use it to fill my duck pond because our municipal water, I mean, it costs us money. So I'd rather use free water from the
Sure.
sky to fill my pond. But so we have like rain barrels that I like to use just because then I can control when I have the water, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, the amount of water we get has been a problem with the septic. Like we had septic in Canada before too, but we never had enough rain where the ground got so saturated that the toilet wouldn't flush anymore. That was new. Are you going to be okay?
Yeah. Yep.
I feel you're tired though. I was up at 3 a.m. so I understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like stuff like that, like it was incredible to me when my toilet wouldn't flush. We called the septic guy in because I was freaking out. I was like, I've never had this happen before. I had septic for years and never had it happen. And he digs it up and he's like, oh yeah, well it's full. It's full. Like it's not a tank. It's literally a hole in the ground. Right? It just goes into the ground. He says, yeah, but the ground's really wet. So, oh my God, I didn't even realize that happens.
Yeah, because you assume like it's a tank, like it, like yeah.
No,
so it's supposed to so all that waste is supposed to go through the ground and eventually, but when the ground's too wet, it fills up the wrong way.
Yes, and it comes out the top of the ground. You can actually see it.
It's disgusting.
Like a little thing. I'm like, what does that smell? So it's funny because my husband, it was in March when this happened. We were having a birthday party for him. We had like 30 of our friends coming over for a party. And that afternoon is when I'm like, I flush the toilet. I go, what is that smell? And I go out there and I could see it, like a little fountain coming up out of the ground. I go, holy crap, I've never seen that before. It's like, I guess so we're having this party. I was like, oh, now I can't use this toilet. So we have an old toilet that kind of has like a sort of a structure around it, but we call it the prison toilet because that's what it looks like, right? Like it's a concrete closet with no door. So for our party, we had to use that toilet. But the good thing was most of our friends are Ticos. So like they all grew up with stuff like that. It's just no big deal.
Sure. That's good.
Yeah.
You said prison toilet. I'm like, is it made out of like stainless steel or something like that? I don't know.
No, just concrete. They cinder block. It's like a cinder block hat ball. And it's got like a little bit of concrete board at the top, but it's got no roof and no door. So we just put a shower curtain across. We're still using it now, actually. Yeah. Well, I mean, the good thing was I've never been really precious about my I could dress up and I like nice things, right? But I've also been homeless. So for me, it's like having to use the prison toilet. I'm not going to get my nose out of joint for something like that, right? Like I can be dirty and the only thing that freaked me out about the septic, right? Like I'll put my rubber boots on out there and wade in there and dig it out and clean it up. But when I got a party of 30 people coming over, it gets a little stressful.
I can imagine.
But yeah, otherwise it's not that big a deal. Yeah, I'm pretty good at figuring out how things work, and I actually love asking people, right? Like I have a bunch of friends that now for whatever, like when I started building the structure here, I've never welded before, ever. Yeah, I wouldn't even have tried it. Electricity really scares me, actually. I hate doing electrical work. So I would have never even tried it.
That's common.
All my work was in carpentry. But when we moved here, I'm like, well, I asked the guy at the hardware store, what can I use to build? I need to build a bedroom. I said, but, you guys don't really use wood because there's nothing but termites and water here. so
Ooh.
it rots, right? Like this cabin is made out of wood,
Yeah.
but you have to paint it like every couple of years with a mixture of diesel fuel and motor oil. Like you have to
Oh,
paint the outside of it to stop termites. So I'm
right.
gonna have to do that this year, actually. But I didn't want to do that, so I was like, "Well, what can I use?" They said, "Well, why don't you just use metal?" Like, well, I've never welded before. And the guy at the hardware store goes, "You can learn how to weld." So she hooked me up with all the equipment. But the good thing is, I have a bunch of friends actually from Twitter that are old millwrights and some old welders and like really long-term ones that are pros. And so I started asking questions, and I had one. He says, "Okay, when you have time, let's get on a video call and I'll watch you weld and I'll give you some tips." So he literally just sat there on video call watching me practice weld, giving me tips on how to do, what to change.
That's
It
actually
was
pretty cool.
amazing. Yeah. So now I weld. I get criticism all the time because that's not the way a welder does it. Well, I'm not trying to be a welder. I'm trying to weld. It's not the same thing. Right?
That's a good point.
I don't care what it
I
looks
want
like.
these
It
two
just has to
pieces of
hold.
metal to hold. That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll make it pretty later. Like right now, I want to get something done. And later I'll work on making it pretty. But for now, it's going to get covered. Right? So
Sure.
I don't care as long as it doesn't break.
Yeah.
I'm more functional than pretty for the most part.
Welding's
Like,
a lot
I'll be
tougher than
fun.
I thought it would be. Like it
With-
looks like, oh, you're just like zapping metal together. It's way harder than I thought it would be.
I'll give my friend Rob credit because honestly, after 2 weeks of practicing, I was crying and I was like ready to give up. I said to my husband, I go, "I'm never going to be able to learn how to do this." He says, "When have you ever said that?" I was like, "I'm ready now." And Rob's like, "Don't, you know you can do this. You can make this happen." And he's told me to stick with it. And then it worked. So
Nice.
yeah, it's still not great, but it gets the job done for now. So
Hey, it's your house. Whatever
yeah.
you want.
And when my husband fell, it wasn't my fault. It wasn't my welding's
That's true.
fault.
That is also true.
I'll be honest, though, when I saw him fall, I actually worried that it might have been. I was like, oh shit, did that bar
Right.
break?
Yeah. Yeah. That would be a concern, right? Like, what did I do to?
Yeah, so that's another challenge, actually, in addition to the water, is learning how different things are. Like, it's like I want to build a house, so okay, go to the hardware store and buy some 2x4s. But you might be able to find 2x4s. They do sell them, but they're wet. You can't get dried wood here. Well, I mean, you can, but you have to order it way in advance.
Oh my gosh.
And it's really expensive because they'll take it, but they got to put it in a kiln to dry it, but nobody wants it. Nobody wants it that way, right? Like Batikos don't use wood like that, so they don't bother spending money on a kiln to dry it. Like, so, I mean, to give you a picture of what it's like here, we have a fire pit. And sometimes we go hunting for firewood. Where can I buy firewood? In Canada, you could go anywhere and people would sell you a cord of wood, right?
Yeah.
We found a place by the hardware store in the town down the road that has stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks of wood. And we went in there and said, well, how much to get like a truck full of wood? And the guy laughed. I'm like, I can't sell you that wood. It's like, got a whole building full of it over there. What are you talking about? What do you need that for? Well, so here they have buildings called beneficios, and those buildings are exclusively for roasting coffee, which is a very large industry here. It's just about the only large industry here. And any wood that's worth burning that they have the time to dry has to go to that. Because if the beneficio runs out of wood for their drying kiln, right, for their roasting kilns, then that industry stops. So almost all burnable wood goes there. So, and they don't waste energy drying wood for construction because nobody uses it. Nobody wants it because of the termites. So I could get 2x4. I ordered 2x4s once, and they were real 2x4s, like not the Home Depot kind that's like 3/4 inch by 1.5, right? Like they're real 2x4s, and they weighed a ton because they were dripping water. I had to hang them
Oh
up
my
for like 2 weeks
gosh.
just to dry them out enough to use them.
Wow.
So, yeah, you don't want to. You can get wood for construction here, but it's all kinds of different wood. I still don't have it straight what is and is not suitable for buying it. They
Right.
even harvest it at certain times of the month so that they get it in the moon phase, right? Because it sucks water up at a certain stage and seals all the pores to prevent bugs from getting in. It's crazy. It's a real science.
Sounds like, I was going to say, it sounds more like voodoo, but I guess science works.
I have physically seen the difference between wood that was harvested at the right time and wood that wasn't. And I can tell you, I don't know why it happens, but it is for real. Right? Like
With
you
phases of the moon?
well, I mean, it's not technically the moon, but like it's about when the tree is sucking water in as opposed to when it's not, right? Like the trees go through these little,
Okay. Yeah.
right? So you want it so that the pores are the tightest. Otherwise, they'll get infiltrated with like microscopic parasites. And well, eventually, I have a friend who her wood was harvested at the wrong time, and she's got these tiny little pinholes all through it because it got infiltrated with bugs. And no matter what you do after you've harvested it, that way you can't fix that. So it makes it weaker.
Oh,
It's really
that's not
weird.
good.
Stuff
That
like
is
that.
weird.
It's all. I've never had to care about stuff like that.
Right.
So all the building is different. I've learned how to build with bamboo now. I'm still getting good at that. But like, I think you can just cut it down and use it. Like you see YouTube videos of those, like the Vietnamese girl that she just cuts it down and she's got all this green bamboo and she makes this house with it. Well, I've done that.
Yeah.
I did it for my goats, and then I learned you can't really do that with green bamboo because when it dries out, it shrinks.
That's true.
So none of your joints fit the same. And so like that Vietnamese girl lied to me.
I do like watching videos on TikTok of like old Chinese guys making this, that, and the other out of like bamboo, anything, everything. And it's like the videos, they're kind of longer, you'd think.
They're
Maybe
mesmerizing.
10 minutes.
Do you
But
watch
yeah, it's
Grandpa
like this
Empu?
whole, I don't know who.
Grandpa
I don't think I
Empu
have.
on YouTube does
Okay.
Japanese joinery. It's hypnotic to watch. He's amazing, the stuff he
I'm going to have
makes.
to check that out.
Yeah, you really should unlock. I could kill hours watching his videos. It's crazy, but he's really good. Like traditional Japanese joinery. And have you ever done do you do construction?
I'm not in construction anymore as like a profession. I just do it for myself, like at home.
Okay, so you
Yeah.
understand how complex joinery can be, right? Like
Yeah, like they're almost like the way Japanese do it. They're almost like wooden puzzles, like the way like
yes,
they fit together, and they're so tight fitting.
Mhm.
Just like I don't even have the patience
yeah,
to
Me
get the
neither.
saw out of the shed to like make a cut, and
Yeah.
you're just doing it by hand. And
Yeah. But I love watching it. I don't have patience for it either.
I can
and
appreciate the craftsmanship for sure. Yeah.
Grandpa Empu, you gotta check him out. You really
Yeah.
like it.
How do you spell that? I don't even know how you spell that.
I think it's AMPU.
Oh, okay. I expected it to be more complicated than that.
He's
Okay,
Japanese.
well-
They're never complicated. Well, I mean, they are, but their names usually aren't.
Nice.
Yeah, it's
One
fabulous.
thing with the bamboo is one of your videos that like blew my mind was when you cut into a rather sizable piece of bamboo with a chainsaw, and like
Yeah.
a crap load of water just came gushing
Yeah.
out. For some reason I didn't think that they were full of water. I just figured that
Me
they
neither.
were hollow. They were like
The first time I ever cut
yeah.
this bamboo, it is fat. It's like our bamboo is very old and very big, so it's big like this, right? Like it's huge. It's builder's bamboo, but and it's like 30 feet high. It's very tall. But I've cut dozens of trees down, big ones, right? Like 50-foot tree, like oaks, right? I kept I've done lots of tree felling, so I'm pretty good at it. I haven't had very much in the way of mishaps cutting trees, so I felt pretty confident that I could tackle this task. Yeah, it's like a tree, right? It looks like a tree. It's nothing like a tree. So you cut into this bamboo, and yeah, the first thing you notice is that it literally sprays you like a fountain, right? It's like, so now my chainsaw's soaking wet. And for like 5 minutes, it's just gushing, gushing, gushing. And I can hear the water just going glum, 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 glum through the bamboo because it's mostly full of it. I don't know what video you saw, but like I was showing on Twitter at some point, I show people like the bamboo has these little sections, right? You can see the lines on it as it like little rings up. Each of those little rings is a piece of bamboo material on the inside. It turns like to a little disc to create a compartment.
Yeah.
Now, lots of times there is a hole there because it doesn't completely form. It depends how old the bamboo is, right? Like if it's really thoroughly grown, it'll be solid. And then each compartment will have its own little store of water. It takes forever to dry out. Sometimes the holes are there and it'll just all come out. And then you just have to wait for the actual material to dry. But it's wicked heavy because it's full of water. And also the bamboo, when you go to cut into it, right? Like you cut your notch, right? Like your V notch.
Yeah.
And you go along the back to do this cut down so that it falls this way, right? But bamboo is like these long strands, right? And they're really super strong. So, with the weight and the way that it bends, because it's really bendy too, as soon as you start making that back cut, at some point, it's just going to snap, right? And the first time I did,
chicken.
No, it's like, what are you doing, lady? The first time I did that, I was behind it, right? Because of where I needed to hold the chainsaw, and that kickback nearly took my head off, right? Like the whole piece just snapped and came back a little bit, and it was like this close to decapitating me. Yeah. It was that was almost a real disaster. So I got a local to come, and I paid him a few bucks to come spend the afternoon with me and show me how to properly cut bamboo safely. And that helped. But I had it mostly right. It's just about, paying attention to where you are and just trying to stay out of the way of it when it falls. But it can be really super dangerous. But yeah, the wet part really throws you. Yeah. Trees too, actually. I get people comment on my chainsaw videos all the time. Oh, you should be getting chips instead of like all this kind of fine sawdust, right? They're like, oh, you need to sharpen your chainsaw. You should be getting chips. Dude, you have no idea what the trees are like here. They're soaking wet. I mean, really wet. We cut down an avocado tree. It was a huge one. And you cut into that, and I got sprayed with water, the same as the bamboo. Cutting into an avocado tree. You don't get sawdust from that. It comes out like this pulp, right? Because it's sawdust mixed with the water from the tree or the wetness from the sap or whatever. And it just comes out. The chainsaw gets all gummed up with it. It's like, you can't live in, say, Montana and cut down trees in Montana and think it's even remotely the same here. It's not. I thought it was too, but
things are so dry in Montana that like our fence posts don't really rot. They just like they can sit in the dirt for 100 years, and you'd still find them just dry as a bone.
See, by contrast here, my fence posts grow. So I cut these trees down. We call them kanya trees, right? Like they're like I think they're in the yucca family, right? But you cut them down and people use them as fence posts because when you put them in the ground, they just start regrowing again. You literally cut a whole tree into like 6 pieces.
That sounds nice.
It's amazing. I was telling my friend today, actually, I have a Rudbeckia, which is like a black-eyed Susan kind of shrub.
Okay, yeah.
I planted it for my goat. I got it from a friend of mine here, and she gave me like 4 sticks like this long, no leaves on it. She just took a branch, cut it into 4 pieces, right, and handed me these sticks. She goes, just put these in the ground. I go, really? Like, doesn't that need a root? It's like, no, I don't grow. I put it in the ground in May, just these 3-foot-long sticks with no leaves on them. And I go back there now, and the shrub is 12 feet high.
Oh my god!
And it's covered in leaves and flowers. Yeah, it's like a huge hedge now from May.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I put in some trees in the backyard, some locust, and they grew probably like 3 or 4 feet since April, May this year, and that's like
good.
super rare. That's super rare here.
Yeah, it's gonna
like nothing takes off like that.
No, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Here, it takes nothing. The challenge you have, like I said, is water for non-native stuff. For native stuff, the native stuff just eats it up, right? It's like, yeah, give me more. But the challenge for the native stuff is like leaf cutter ants.
Oh.
They eat everything. And keeping on top, like I have hills, several very large hills on the property that I have to routinely repoison just to try to keep them. It doesn't ever get rid of them because I have neighbors that don't take care of their house, so eventually they just go anyway. But like two of my citrus trees out back are covered in oranges but no leaves.
That's so weird.
Yeah, it's
like reverse.
It's I mean, leaf cutter ants are cool to look at. They're a very cool beast. They really are a pain in the ass. So, especially like my conservation trees that they just planted. Now I'm back there where the citrus trees are, and there's like 8 of them that are completely stripped of leaves now. They're just like, thanks for bringing in the buffet. So.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a challenge. They're very destructive.
You could pour some of that molten like aluminum down there and like make like a form of like the nest of leafcutter ants.
I'd be afraid to. I can't even tell you how big. I found a couple of weeks ago. I think I put a video on Twitter actually of it. I found a hill. There was like our goat field. We don't have goats anymore. We had them for a little while, but we had like a whole 1/3 of the property fenced off for the goats. But since we got rid of the goats, they just let the scrub grow there, right? Because we're not using it for anything else. But I went down there, can't even remember why, and I found a hill there, a gigantic leaf cutter hill. It had to be 100 square feet around, and it was humped up like 2 or 3 feet in some places. It was huge. And I'm like, oh, no wonder. That's where all the ants are coming from. I was like, I can't figure out where all these ants are coming from. Yeah. So I threw some poison in there, but like once it gets that big, you never getting rid of them all.
Sure.
Now you're just trying to keep up with them.
What happened to those goats?
They never eat the stuff you want. Oh, we ate them.
Oh, all right.
I mean, I was going to breed goats, but they were a lot more work than I was expecting. Like, I really, really, really wanted goats, but they wouldn't stay in their field. But we spent so much money and time on fencing, and they still just kept managing to get out. And then they'd always head over 2 doors down to my neighbor's house. She has this really beautiful perennial garden. Well, I guess they're all perennials here, but like a huge ornamental garden that she takes a lot of pride in. And her family is quite wealthy. They own the hardware store and the grocery store at the corner, so they're important for the community.
Yeah.
And they're very nice to us, but I certainly didn't want to be that neighbor that makes her mad all the time because my goats keep getting out, eating her plants. So I finally just said, oh, we can't have goats. But I just don't have the time or patience for it. So they're always meant to be food eventually anyway. So I just filled the freezer with them.
There they sit.
They make
never to get out again.
And they make delicious carnitas.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
Yeah. So now just birds. Nice. I said to my guide, I don't want any animals that big anymore. Just birds. Got a ton of those.
So what would you say the best part about homesteading is?
Free food.
Is it free? Don't feel free.
See, for me, because of the attitude I've always had, my time and my sweat, I don't even notice that I've lost it. Right? In our situation, especially because of the way we had to leave, I'm 50, my husband's 52, and we're retired now. So the budget's very tight. So we deliberately set ourselves up in a place and a way that we were hoping that we could live on what we have for the rest of our nice, much longer lives, I hope, without having to worry about starving, right? Like I said, I've been homeless before. I've gone days and days without food before. So for me, food security, that's primal, right? Like it concerns me a lot. But I'll bleed and I'll sweat and I won't even complain. But if I have to worry about where I'm going to get my next meal, it stresses me out quite a bit. So having food security is really important. So having a property where, like, we planned it out so much, it's like, if things got really, really, really bad, and they could, we're really actually worried about that a lot.
Sure.
Like food chain disruptions and other problems. And we decided if we had to just hunker down on this property and survive on only what we can only do here, what could we live with, right? So we've set things up so that we could still almost enjoy eating. There's lots you can live with, but there's some things that just like my first husband was Bulgarian, and he grew up in Bulgaria when it was still under the USSR.
Oh, wow.
So under real communism. And he used to tell me stories about they'd make soup and they'd put a little bit of like car oil in it to give it like that oily texture, like beef fat.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't put meat in it. And I never want to live a life where that's how you have to survive.
No.
So for me, food security isn't a big deal. And the food is free, but if all I have to do is work my own hands for it, right? If I don't have to figure out where to get money to buy it, I'm okay with that. I'll work till I'm dead. I'd much rather do that than try to scrabble around trying to figure out how to get money for it. So
sure. I feel like I had a follow-up question to that, but I got so sucked into the story that no.
I ramble
like, and then what happened? Story. And then what happened? And then what happened? No, that happens to me all the time. I get sucked in. But
you can always message me later when you remember.
Yeah. I'll probably figure it out at 3 a.m. or something like that.
I'll be awake.
I guess you will. I guess you will be awake. So, what would you tell people that want to get started homesteading or moving to Costa Rica?
Oh my goodness, there's so many things. Okay. The moving to Costa Rica or anywhere actually for that matter is know yourself. Costa Rica in particular is a country where 75% of the people that move here leave within 2 years. Because
75%
of the expats that move here leave within 2 years. And actually,
Holy
Our old house
smokes.
in Canada, the person we bought it from, he moved to Costa Rica with his family and then came back after a year and a half. And we lived in that house for 10 years, but I'd heard
That's
that
really
story after.
funny.
Yeah, it was totally
So
random,
that's with
right?
a guy, and then he moves to Costa Rica, and then he moves back to Canada. That's funny.
Yeah. But they do that because they come to Costa Rica for vacation. They have a really good time on the beach. It's beautiful. Oh, yeah, I could live here. And they don't understand what it's like to actually live in 42 degrees, 90% humidity for your entire life and
Sure.
live in a country that is still technically third world. They think they
Okay.
can.
That was actually my question. I remember
didn't
my
look-
question. If Costa Rica is technically like a third world country, and you were
Yeah, I
talking
believe it
about like
still is. Yeah.
you're talking about like food security and like scarcity, and so I can't remember where I heard this, but like if you're living in a third world country and there's like supply chain issues, there's really like a small fall to go even lower, right?
More,
But if you're in a first world country like the United States, Canada, plus
more
20
central
other,
control. Yeah.
yeah, so you have a lot further to fall, and like
And-
people scrambling and trying to figure it out, killing each other just to survive.
You have
because they're not used to it.
No, you have whole cities, like take, for example, Toronto. I think is it 2 million people population? It's a lot of people. None of the food they eat grows there.
None.
So none of it. It's Toronto. It's all concrete.
Isn't that like New York City too? Like
Yeah.
just the trash alone to get out of New York City is like a whole endeavor. Like it's a whole logistics thing.
No, whatever they want to eat has to come from somewhere else. So if that stops, you have 2 million people suddenly, and a whole bunch of them don't even have cars, trying to figure out how they're going to leave a city it's huge too. How they're going to travel 50 kilometers out to find food, right? Here, the thing is, this country doesn't have a lot of central distribution. It's all local markets, local farms, right? Most of the food that comes here is grown here, even like the meat, even the big distribution, like meat, right? It's still mostly grown here, right? Like the imported stuff is very expensive here. Like if I want Kraft dinner and peanut butter, the peanut butter is $9 for a jar. It is stupid expensive because it's imported.
Sure.
So, but for local stuff, it's dirt cheap because it's grown probably next door or down the street, right? So it's all, and this whole country grew up that way where you had like a tiny little central location surrounded by some farms, and everybody started trading amongst themselves. So their food chain is built that way. Even like the distribution of living here, like they have a huge transit system. So you can take a bus from anywhere in this country to anywhere else in the country. They go everywhere. You don't have to have a car here. It's actually not that hard to just live with the bus. But there's, other than San Jose, which is the capital, there's not really any big cities at all. You go down the road and every 2 kilometers, there's a new little town that has a grocery store and it has a little agro store, right? And then 2 more kilometers, it's another little town, right? And the whole country is distributed that way. So you don't really have to go, there's things you have to go far for just because not everywhere supplies everything, right?
Sure.
Because stock is hard to keep. It's capital expenses, right? And they don't have a lot of that. It's shoestring budgets here. But you don't technically have to go far for anything, because especially your food. And you could literally walk down the street and there's banana trees that just randomly growing in the ditch. If you want to have
ditch bananas.
It's true. They're really good. They're lots of potassium. But I mean, we've gone on hikes where there's mango trees that are just shitting mangoes on the ground. You just pick up and fill a backpack full of mangoes, right? They just grow randomly. There's food everywhere here. It's impossible to starve here unless you're just so lazy you can't even pick it, right? Like there's food growing everywhere. So that part won't be a problem. There are other problems that could come up if it's pretty safe here, but life has always been rougher here. So that like the people are used to rougher life. So there are some rough people here, but generally, like where we are is reasonably safe. We haven't had any trouble. And if you have the right network, the good thing is reputations travel very rapidly here. You absolutely have to know people to get things done here because they don't have, like if I want to find a business, they don't have a website. They probably don't even have a phone. They might have a phone, but it's like a WhatsApp number. It's like the owner's brother's WhatsApp number, right? So if I want like bags of wood chips for my turkey shed, well, I gotta ask somebody, oh, I know a guy who owns a mill in the other town, and I'll call him and let him know you're coming over, right? Like you can't just drive by and there's a sign that says, oh, wood chips here, right? Like the farmer is back in the jungle. If you're not paying attention, you'll miss the driveway, right? So you have to know people, you have to make friends, and you have to be not the kind of person that's a jerk, right? Because Ticos don't like jerks. They're really friendly. But they're only friendly to people who are good people, generally. So they'll help you if you have the right attitude. And then you get lots of like, I get tons of things done, right? But I've seen people struggle. Like, no offense, but a lot of Americans have this problem. They come here and they feel like they can just take their life, their North American first world life, and just move it to a cheaper location with cheaper labor and a beach. And they think that they can do that and everything will be fine. But it doesn't happen that way here. There's lots of things you can't get, right? It's like the food you want that you're used to. You can't get, I've never seen Chef Boyardee here ever, right? Like you can't get a good steak here. I see complaints about stuff like that all the time, right? Like, yeah, and those things they're downsides, but if you come here and you get a really bad attitude about it, because you're like, well, why can't we have it there? There's no reason you can't have it here. It's like, well, there's lots of reasons why you don't have it here, but you never bothered to learn what those reasons are. You just think that this is a shawl and you come here because you can have it cheap made. I've seen lots of people with that attitude.
Sure. Why 75% only make it less than 2 years? Yeah. How come you can't get a steak there? What's the deal there?
So the cows they use here are different. I think somebody told me they're called Brahman cows. I don't know anything about cows. They're not like Angus cows. Like North America, like Alberta and Canada has a huge beef industry, right? So
sure,
like those kinds of cows, they don't have them here. I don't know if it's just because they don't, or if maybe because of the climate they're not suited for it. And they don't thrive here. I'm not sure why they don't really use those kinds of cows here. So the cows, to start with, they're different. Also, they don't age their meat ever. Like if you buy beef, it was probably killed yesterday. Yeah. So I mean,
not bad.
I started trying to age it myself in the fridge a little, just because you need to. It's still dripping with blood, right? Like so tough.
Okay.
And the way they butcher it is like I still can't even figure out what the cuts are. You go into the store and I can tell that it's beef because of the color, but it's like, what part of the animal is that, right? Like I'm reasonably familiar with North American butchering cuts, right? Like,
yeah.
I've never seen a T-bone steak here. Never seen that.
Like,
no.
Where did it go?
They just cut it different, right? Like,
yeah.
For me, it's really weird. Surprised me at all of that T-shaped bone, whatever it is. They take the meat this way, just cut around the bone, throw that bone away. We don't need
that. Makes sense, actually.
Stuff like that, right? Like they butcher completely different. If you go and ask them for a brisket, they don't know what that is. Like I've gotten to the butcher, they have no idea what a brisket is. They'll have a picture on on the wall of the cow. They have the picture. Right? Like, that's the thing that blows my mind is they have the picture. It's got all the cuts that I'm familiar with, but they don't cut it that way. It's like, well, why not? You got the
Just looks
lot,
good, I guess.
and I have the
Weird.
tri-tip or whatever. Like, no, we don't have that. Well, you probably have it, but you chopped it up into stew meat over there. I don't know. So
That's funny.
yeah, all the meat's butchered differently, even the chicken. So here's the weird thing: you're gonna laugh. You go into the store where you are, and you'll get like chicken breasts, and even when they sell the breasts that still have the bone in, like skin on bone in chicken breasts, and you can use for kind of fancier dishes, right? Or you can buy whole chicken. That's pretty common. Here, I cannot. You can buy skinless, boneless chicken breasts, but it'll be a butterfly. So the two breasts still attached. Okay, that's not so weird. But most of the time, you can't buy a whole chicken. What you can buy is the torso. So it's got the legs and the wings cut off. And it's just like the torso with like a big hole in the middle where
including the rib cage.
It's a torso. It's a chicken torso. They sell it that way, and it's really cool. Like the print is full of them.
Why not?
The thing is, I can't figure out how they cook it because they buy this freaking thing and I'll season it. I put it like in the roasting dish. It kind of falls over because it doesn't have the legs on it to keep it stable. Right? Like when you put a whole chicken in, it kind of just sits there, right?
You almost have to like spatchcock it, but like half of it, I guess.
I mean, I could spatchcock it. I do that to my own chickens just to store them and everything. I could, but it just blows my mind that they sell it that way. I was like, why? It's like, why would you? I don't know. I haven't figured it out.
Seems easy. Just cut it off at the neck, cut it off at the waist or whatever, and
I mean, this sounds like a complaint. It's not really a complaint. It's just sometimes it makes me laugh.
An observation,
right? Like, because you think to yourself, I just can't understand why they do it that way. I mean, maybe there's a good reason. And I just, like, I've asked some of my friends stuff like that, and they're like, "What do you mean?" That's just how they sell it. They don't even think about it. It's probably because they've never seen it the other way. I don't know.
Maybe they think it's weird we do it the way we do it.
Probably true. But yeah, stuff like that. I get a lot of amusement. It's cool. Like, I like learning new things. So it's really interesting that something that's so ordinary, right? Like, then you just take for granted is the same everywhere. It really just isn't.
Yeah.
So that part's fun. I like it. All the time.
It sounds like an adventure, just like a real journey every day.
It really is. I have like the guys in the neighborhood here. They laugh at me all the time. They're amazing. I love my peeps here, but they laugh at me all the time because I ask the weirdest questions. But I take so much joy in it. I'm like, I really want to know. But they're like, why do you know that? I said, just because it's different from what I'm used to. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've learned some really cool things. It's funny.
And then you meet other cool people too that way.
Yeah.
Just asking questions. So.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. Was there anything else that you wanted to mention or anything?
No, I mean, I could talk for hours, but that's just normal for everything. You look like you're going to fall asleep over there, though.
Don't say that.
You must have been working hard today.
It was a lot in the sun. Yep. But yeah, can you tell people where they can find you?
I am on Twitter. I am at Handy Ginger Gal on Twitter. I am at Handy Ginger Gal on YouTube as well, where I have videos of some of my adventures and building projects there. Pre and post Costa Rica, not post Costa Rica, current Costa Rica, I guess. So, that's about it. That's about it.
Awesome. Getting more chainsaw shenanigans coming soon, probably, and
yeah, actually, in 3 weeks, if our planning goes well, I'll be starting a bunkie project. Actually,
what?
Like a bunkie guest house.
Oh, okay. That's what I thought you meant, but I wasn't sure if that's if I heard you right.
Yeah, we have people coming in January to visit, and I don't have anywhere for them to sleep. So we're going to do a blitz project of like a properly built bunkie. So I'll be videotaping that and sharing a lot of that. I got to get it done before January.
A bunkie. It sounds Australian to me. I don't know why.
You guys don't call it bunkies in America?
Like a bunkhouse, I guess.
Yeah.
But that's more like more like a guest house.
Well, when I say bunkie, it's like literally just an A-frame building with a bed in it. Like there's no, and we'll have like a little.
I don't know what you'd call that then. A cabin. I don't know.
No, this will be smaller than a cabin. Like a cabin will have a kitchenette in it, right? And like an indoor bathroom. This won't have that. It's just literally a bedroom and a little bathroom closet outside. That's it. So just a little.
Sounds kind of nice.
Yeah, a little bunkhouse just for sleeping in. So
yeah, that's all I need.
My mother-in-law, she won't use the present toilet, so I got to give her something a little more glamorous. She's a lovely lady, but she needs an indoor toilet.
Well, good luck with that.
Thank you. Yeah, wish me luck. I'm going to need it. There's always a mishap and an injury or two, but we'll see.
Let's hope not. But Ginger, I really appreciate your time tonight, and thanks again for being with me.
Thanks for inviting.
Yeah, we'll talk to you later.
Bye.
You too. Bye.
I am Matt DeRozier of Farm Hop Life. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and visit farmhoplife.com.
Inside of the city, the people are crazy, out of their minds, they ain't got a clue. We gone away, headed west for Montana, left family and friends, all I got now is you. We both got new jobs, a house and a homestead, thinking this was the life, all that there'd be. After our firstborn, you had to stay home. That's when the work got in the way for me. Well, I started Farm Hop Life. We'll come to your farm to help and to wander. Me and the family, a truck and an RV. Send us a message and